This weekend, unplug. Getting closer to nature can get you closer to your family. To find the forest nearest you, go to discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a successful motivational speaker and trusted life coach, Nancy knows how you can live the life you want regardless of the challenges you face. Although she's legally blind, Nancy's mission is to inspire others to overcome obstacles and live life full out. Call in at 800-333-0001 to ask Nancy for advice on topics such as relationships, finances, business, health, and more. Just call 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. And now, here's Nancy.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Living Full Out Show. I am Nancy Solari, and this is so exciting because today we're talking about aging. Who doesn't love aging? Okay. Now, I personally have a different take on aging. I think that as we age, we get better with age. I really do. There's all this craziness, things even out of our control that happen in life on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. But it's how we handle those life moments. It's what we learn. It's who we choose to become. That's what the aging process is about. So definitely stick with us throughout the show. Our next guest, Rob Whitner, his story is one where he really developed into the man that he wanted to be through aging, through learning. And he's going to tell you more about that in our next segment. We're also going to be taking your calls. That number is 800-333-0001. And again, we want to hear from you. You know, we do these shows every week and we try to pick topics that we know we all deal with on a daily basis and ones that will propel you to really live life full out. But if you have a show topic that you'd like us to focus on, connect with us, literally, at connect@livingfullout.com. Let us know your thoughts on today's show or future shows. And we're always looking for those guests that have an inspirational story, one that will teach our community, have us reflect on looking at life a different way. So if you have such a story, one that you feel would be relevant to our audience and one that you'd be happy to share, then we'd like to hear from you. Again, reach out to us at connect@livingfullout.com. Very lastly, if you want to listen to today's show again or past shows, you can go to livingfullout.com/radio show, and all the shows will be there for you, including the replay of today's show. So we're going to go to the phone lines now. Welcome to the Living Full Out Show. Hello, welcome.
Hi, thanks so much.
Hi. So tell me, what's going on today?
Well, I was talking to a friend. So I do mixed martial arts, and it's a very male-dominated sport. And just kind of looking for some advice as to how to get through all of that, since I'm one of the only girls at the gym where I train.
Well, let me ask you a question. You know, in what way is being the only girl a challenge?
Definitely, every girl that I've talked to that trains, definitely we all feel that, you know, you have to work a lot harder to get sort of the same amount of respect. And then there's a lot of the tournaments are for men only, for like jiu-jitsu tournaments and stuff. So it's definitely been hard, even just trying to find anywhere to compete. So.
Well, and the reason why I asked that question, those are very valid reasons, right? I mean, some of those things are in your control and some not. But the reason I asked that question is you sound confident. You sound like a go-getter. Obviously, to do that martial arts, you have to have discipline and focus. Mm-hmm. But also, always remember the power that you have, okay? So what I mean by that is even if you are the only female on a given day that you go in there and everybody else is male, there's this power, there's this energy that you will ooze that will be threatening in their own way. See, men know men, right? Men don't always know women. I think we can all agree on that, right? So here's the thing. The way that you look at something, just with the natural multitasking skills that you have, I think we've lost our caller, but if she's listening, I want to give her this feedback. Those multi-level skills that we have as females, that can be an advantage for you. So you just need to kind of harness who you are, whether it be a male or a female, really, the natural gifts and talents that only you have when you're going up against that competitor. In this case, she may be the only female, where the majority of the people at her gym are male. But it's finding what is that edge that she has? What is the training as a female? What does she have that can be, in some ways, that extra little power that they might not have? And then when considering the fact that there might not be a lot of competition for women in that sport, what an opportunity to create that, to be that voice, to get things out there, to get them going. Yes, it may seem like a part-time job or a full-time job in doing so, but I look at that as an opportunity to put your stamp into that sport even more. Give yourself a name that you created that event, that you had a hand in that. So hopefully our caller did hear that advice, and feel free to call back in if you'd like to, and we'll chat it out some more. Again, today we're talking about aging. So, I can give that advice because, well, I've learned those things over the years, and I'm sure a couple people are nodding their head going, yeah, I hear you, Nancy. When you go through life and you let life unfold and literally let it wash over you, that's from aging where you get wisdom, where you're able to see things from a different perspective. We're going to go back to the phone lines now. Welcome to the Living Full Out Show.
Hi, is this Nancy?
Yes, it is. Hi, who's this?
Hi, Nancy. This is Mark.
Hi, Mark. Thank you for calling in. How can I help you today?
Well, Nancy, a big thing that I'm struggling with is time management. Working full time and trying to study to go back to school. It's just really difficult. At the end of my day, I'm just really drained. As far as time management, what would you recommend would be a good stepping stone to divvy up my time?
Well, that's a great question. I have a couple thoughts for you, okay? Number one is passion. You have to always keep crystal clear in your mind as well as in your heart and soul, what are you doing this for? So when you close your eyes at night, when you daydream, who do you see yourself being in a career and also as a man?
As a career, I like to see myself elevated. Usually I like to ask myself, where would I be in the next 3 to 5 years? And I always see myself progressing. I do like the fact that education is a big stepping stone for that. Just because I'm out of school. Do
you have a certain career choice in mind, though?
Well, certain career choice, I'm currently in banking, and I like to stay on that career path. There's a lot of opportunity there, and the career development at the institution is fantastic, and they offer a lot of sponsorship for continuing education. So I think it's a great opportunity to take advantage of it.
Well, and so I love that you have that focus, okay? And the thing is what you want to consider, like when you're having those long nights where you're studying, where you literally have to go from your full-time job to school and then studying on top of that, and the days feel like they're getting shorter and shorter and shorter, you always have to remember the end goal in mind, that you love banking. You don't know what that looks like, but you know that's a career that fires you up. And even more so, look at the banking industry on how Mark can make his biggest impact, okay? Think of all the people that you're going to serve, that if you were never to keep going and get that degree, to get that job, think of all those people that would miss out because they would have never got Mark. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
And let that pull you along. And then also, as a man, or if I think of my life as a woman, all the different aspects of our life. Career is just one slice of the pie. But one day you may be a father. You obviously have friends. You're a son to your parents. The thing is it's just about developing to become the best version of ourselves that we can be. And obviously you are on the scale of life where you are. But the cool thing is, life only gets better. I promise you. Like this time where you're kind of working overtime, it's not going to last forever. It'll just keep getting better and better. But the challenges don't go away. You just learn how to better manage them. So let's talk about that. Okay, let's talk about that. So to better manage your long days, to give boundaries, I'm a firm believer in scheduling. Some people might say, I don't want to schedule. It sounds so restricting. But honestly, a schedule will allow you to get everything in the day that you want. And make sure to put in transportation time. Make sure to put in time to eat. Make sure to put in time just to relax, like veg out. Because you're going to need that time to kind of have self-care. But I believe in a schedule. I also believe in finding out what it is that releases pressure in your body. When we get stressed out, we're kind of like a soda can, all shook up, right? And what happens when you pop that top? You explode.
I feel the, yeah.
Right? And I don't know, we all explode from time to time. So you have to release that pressure. So for some people, that's working out. For some people, that's saying, you know what? Once a day, I'm going to treat myself to something food-wise I really enjoy. For some people, that's talking to somebody, and don't let that person ask you anything about school, anything about work. Like, I literally just called to hear your voice. There's certain topics you can't talk to me about because I don't want to talk about them right now. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Find that outlet. Because what happens is when we talk to people on the phone, they're like, so how are you doing? And then you feel like it's a report card, like you got to justify all the things you're doing. So put out there right away. Say, listen, you are my energetic output. Like, I'll literally call certain people in my life and I'm like, I just need an energy dose from you. Just tell me a story. You tell me what's going on in your life. I don't want to talk about me. You see what I'm saying? So if you do those things, I promise you the energy will be there, the passion will be there, and you'll be on your way.
Thank you so much, Nancy. I really like your perspective of just letting others tell their story. And
absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
And you have a story. So one day someone's going to come to you like you came to me, and now you know what to say back. Okay? But thank you so much, Mark, for calling in, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Nancy.
You're welcome. Everybody else, we'll be right back with Rob Whitner after this commercial break.
Hey, what's up? Thinking about you. XOXOXO. Want to snuggle. ... JK. Hit me back. You getting these texts? ? We should hang later. I miss you. Holla at ya, boy. Holla back. Holla back. Holla back. Are you at home? Where are you? What are you doing? OMG. You are making me mad. Are you with your ex? You better text me back. I'm waiting outside your house.
Relentless, aggressive texting is like sending an angry robot to deliver your message. When does the robot become dangerous? Let us know at that'snotcool.com.
That'snotcool.com.
Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Hi, I can't come to the phone right now because I'm abusing my children. Not just verbally, but physically. I'll get back to you.
If only child abuse was this easy to recognize. If you even suspect abuse, call Child Help at 1-800-4A-CHILD or visit childhelp.org. We've helped millions of people help millions of children. All calls are anonymous and confidential, so call 1-800-4A-CHILD or visit childhelp.org. Child Help. Trust your instincts. Brought to you by Child Help and the Ad Council.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
In the world of fairy tales, Sleeping Beauty had 3 good fairies to protect her. But in our world, protecting the beauty of the forest is the responsibility of everyone.
Listen well, all of you.
9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans and can be prevented.
We'll all pitch in. If humans can do it, so can we.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Log on to SmokeyBear.com to find out what you can do. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. A professional motivational speaker, Nancy can help you overcome obstacles and start living full out. Call in with questions live at 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. And now, here's Nancy.
Well, welcome back. I'm Nancy Solari, and this is the Living Full Out show. And today we're talking about aging. You know, it's not that uncommon that we'll say the phrase, how did I get here? Has anybody ever said that to themselves? I know I have. But then after we get past that point in our life that's sticky, uncomfortable, or in some cases tragic, we then will say the next statement of, okay, I get it now. Now I get it. And it's when we get it, that's part of aging. That's part of evolving. And I want to introduce our next guest, Rob Whitner, because the thing is he got it. He spent 20 years in prison for a murder that he did do, but over the time in prison, over his evolving, which he's going to share with us, he got it. He got his purpose. He got why everything unfolded the way it did. And so I want everybody to listen in to this story because, granted, we haven't all walked the same life. His story is going to be different than yours. But the lessons, the nuggets of wisdom that he's going to share with us is one that you can take away and grow from. So I'd like to welcome Rob to the show.
Hi, Nancy.
Hi. Good to hear your voice.
It's good to hear yours also. Thank you for having me on the show.
Absolutely. So I want to kind of go back with our audience to where you were and why you really got so lost in life. You know, you were in the military, you were married, but then your life got all shook up. Can you share with us in what way?
Well, Nancy, number one, I really was just living aimlessly. Though I was in the military and though I was married, I really had no moral compass. And so I just kind of lived life with a devil-may-care attitude. And so as a result, I was drinking heavily. And actually, I was very unfaithful to my wife at that time, and just not being a father to my son, and just really made some horrible choices in life with the people that I was hanging around. Well, when I moved back to the United States from my overseas tour, I discovered the drug crack cocaine, and that put me on a road to destruction that went really, really fast, and I ended up wanting the drug more than I wanted my own life. And when you couple that with aimless living, life without purpose, you going nowhere. And so whatever came along, I was willing to get involved with, and that ultimately led me to commit a crime for which I spent 20 years in prison, which you've already mentioned.
Right, and you know, I thank you so much for sharing that with us, because for anybody listening today who just has gone off compass themselves, just know that hopelessness is not a life sentence, that you can find your way home again. And so stay with us as we continue through Rob's story, because you did find home again, home in your heart, home of who you are. But share with us, you know, here you are, you're drinking, you're doing crack cocaine, you've divorced your wife, you got discharged from the military. I mean, really, everything is just going not as planned, but you kind of lost your plan. You just kind of didn't care anymore. But the day came when you did something that even you thought you could never be capable of doing. What happened that day?
That's right, Nancy. As a result, and I keep going back to the word just aimlessly living, as I was just wandering through life, and I mentioned the drugs were more important to me than my own life. And I had an altercation with a young man that ultimately ended up in me taking his life, and it was surrounding drugs and alcohol. But I had gotten to the place where I never thought I'd be. I never thought I'd ever in a million years would be at a place where I didn't think another human being's life was valuable, and I ended up taking this man's life, and I regretted that. Yes.
Well, I was just curious, how did you take his life? What did you do?
Well, I beat him to death.
Okay.
And it was savage. It was brutal. And again, I just regret that decision, that choice to do that day. And I realized that, though I was on the drugs and the alcohol, I still made the choice to do what I did. So I don't ultimately blame the drugs and alcohol. I just recognize that the drugs and alcohol were a part of leading me to that place.
It's interesting, Rob, because not everybody has murdered somebody, and that isn't who you are at the core, but that at that time, that's where the drugs took you.
Right.
But because that's oftentimes something that we only experience in movies, what went through your mind when you're looking at his lifeless body laying there, to know that you took his life? That were you scared? Did you run? What did you do next?
Both. I was scared, and I did run, and I fled. And there was this overwhelming guilt and shame, because it's like, what have you done? And I knew that this was not something that could be easily corrected.
Did you leave? Did you leave his body there? What were your next steps as you were in this fearful place?
Well, and at that very moment, I sought to move it out of a place where it was, so that it would not be discovered readily, and ended up fleeing from the authorities, because they were looking for me for a few weeks. Mm-hmm. And during that time, I spent quite a bit of time of just being suicidal myself, because I felt like, how could you do this? And now I didn't want to live. And I didn't value my life. I didn't value his life. The drugs were such a major part of my life, and I didn't feel like I was worthy to live. And didn't see much. I keep going back to the word aimlessness. I sensed that my life was going nowhere, to the point where I've taken a person's life, and I didn't value his life any more than that. And I was at a really, really low place in life at that time.
How did you? How did the authorities catch up with you? How did your running stop?
Well, I fled the state and went to the state of Georgia, and was in a vehicle with another young man who I don't know, just had befriended it because we were both drug addicts, and was in the car with him, and for some reason we got pulled over, maybe the license plate or the registration sticker, I don't remember what it was, but we got pulled over, and they took us to the county or city jail, and there they were really just asking him a lot of questions, but they had us in a pen. And so they asked us our names and everything, and because I was someone that the authorities in South Carolina were looking for, when my name came up, the sheriff came down to the cell where I was and asked me what my name was, and I told him. And he said, son, some authorities are looking for you from South Carolina. I said, yes, sir. And he just said, well, they'll be here shortly. And so I was extradited back to South Carolina, where I had to face the charge of murder. And after about 4 months in the county jail, I was sentenced to 20 years to life in the South Carolina Department of Corrections.
Well, the thing is, Rob, that I think is interesting that we want to make sure our listeners understand here is, during that time that you were in the cell, you didn't have drugs. So now you're sobering up. All of this that was haunting you, that you could escape from with the drugs, was now hitting you right in center with no way to self-medicate. Right. And, you actually confessed and you wrote it all down. How did that make you feel in terms of your recovery, in terms of trying to find peace or closure with the murder?
Wow. That's a good question, Nancy. And I guess I'll begin by saying that I once heard a wise man say that, a murderer's guilty conscience will drive him to his grave. Let no one interfere with his way. And for me, Nancy, when I came to that point where I was no longer under the influence of drugs and alcohol, and I was face to face with what I had done, the raw horror of what I had done, I came to the grips that, I am responsible for taking a human being's life. And so whatever the court system deems fit for me is what I deserve. And I resolved within myself that if they sentenced me to death by whatever means, they had every right to do so because I took a life. Now, thankfully, thank God I was not sentenced to death. Thankfully, I was sentenced to a sentence where I actually had a parole date. But I had come face to face with the fact that I've done wrong, and I'm willing to pay the price for the wrong that I did. And that meant coming clean. That meant writing out, I guess, an 8-page confession and signing it saying, to the best of my ability to remember everything that happened, this is what happened. And so I incriminated myself. I didn't go into courts and try to figure out how I could beat it or how I could twist it or turn it around to make it look like something else than what it really was. I just accepted the fact that, Rob, you are guilty and you need to pay for what you've done. And that was freeing, Nancy. That was so freeing because now I no longer had to hide. I no longer felt like I had to try to pretend that something was not real, that something didn't happen when it really did. And it enabled me to just, take a deep breath and say, okay, now I can move forward. It was the first step in moving forward for me.
Well, I love that. And we are going to have to go to commercial break here, misfortunately, but we're going to be coming back with Rob shortly. And his story just takes it to the next level in terms of his healing and really coming to admitting what he did. So everybody stay with us, Rob, you as well, and we'll be right back.
Look for the bare necessities.
The bare necessities of healthy living are easier than you think.
You better believe it.
And the food pyramid shows you the way. With just the right amount of exercise and the necessary grains, vegetables, fruits, milk, and meats and beans.
Just the bare necessities of life.
So eat right, be active, and have fun.
Yeah, man.
For your own path to a healthier you, visit mypyramid.gov.
This is really living.
This message brought to you by the U.S. Department of Agriculture and the Ad Council.
Hey, Jack, you got a sec?
Yeah, sure, come on in.
Yeah, I was wondering if you... Jack, your hair's on fire.
Yeah, I know. I just need to finish this sales report, and then I'll probably, let me lie down for a bit. But I'm sure it'll go away.
But the flames are getting bigger. Shouldn't I... Your hair, there's so much fire.
No, I'll be fine. What can I help you with? Oh, dear. Well, at least we know the sprinkler system works.
You wouldn't ignore this. So why ignore the signs of a stroke? If you or someone you know suddenly experiences numbness of the face, arm, or leg, or is sudden trouble speaking, seeing, or walking, don't wait to get help. Call 911 right away, because time lost is brain lost. To find out more, visit www.strokeassociation.org or call 1-888-4STROKE. This message brought to you by the American Stroke Association and the Ad Council.
This is a test to find out if you know it all when it comes to children. Name one of the leading killers of U.S. children age 1 to 13. What's the best way to protect children in a car crash? At what age and size should a child start using a booster seat?
Don't assume you know it all when it comes to car seats for your child. Go to safercar.gov/the-right-seat and know for sure. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a trusted life coach, Nancy will help you overcome setbacks and embrace all life has to offer. Call in with questions live at 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. And now, here's Nancy.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the Living Full Out Show. I am Nancy Solari, and today we're talking about aging and just the wisdom that can come from acceptance, from admitting sometimes when life has taken a wrong turn and how we need to face up to life when that happens. I'd like to bring back our guest, Rob Whitner, who is sharing with us about how he murdered a man, how he ran from authorities, how all that eventually caught up with him and he was sentenced to 20 years in prison. However, Rob, as we're going to share with our audience, it was in prison that you truly found freedom. I want to just say something to everybody about Rob's story and why I selected your story is because sometimes we just do things that are wrong and they're beyond wrong. I mean, murdering someone is unacceptable. It's just not what we should be doing as humans to each other. However, the thing about life is that it is good. It is patient. It is forgiving. And all you can ever do in life is try to make it right. Try to become a better person through that aging process. So that, Rob, is why I selected your story. Because you didn't go on to run. You actually went on to thrive. So as we continue with your story, I just want everyone to know that it isn't that we're promoting murder or anything like that. But what makes Rob's story so fantastic is just how he accepted what he did and really went on to be a hero for many. So I wanted to share that with our viewers, our listeners.
Thank you. Thank you, Nancy.
Okay. Now,
Nancy,
again,
you just said
Yeah.
something about acceptance. And then I read an allegory once that had a little flower called acceptance with joy. And the flower was in a barren place, and it was just surrounded by rocky growth. But there was one little place where a drop of water could reach that flower. And that flower just had an attitude where it accepted its circumstances, its situation, but accepted it with joy. And that flower was so radiant in an otherwise barren and dreary place.
I love that. I love that because you can't control your surroundings always. You can't control other people, but you absolutely control yourself. Absolutely.
That's right.
Your story is again one that most of us only see on Law and Order, but or on those TV shows. But the thing is you lived it. And when you were sentenced to 20 years in prison, was that, you obviously felt like you were justified because you had murdered someone, but were you scared of what prison felt like, was going to be like?
Yes, because there was, all I really knew about prison was what I had seen in the movies myself. So I expected to run into monsters, and ogres and things like that. But actually, there's just a lot of everyday people that themselves have made some horrible choices and are living through them. Some have accepted the fact, and others are still in rebellion and fighting against authorities and everybody else and wanting to point the finger or blame at others rather than themselves. Mm-hmm. But it was an environment that once I got there and I realized that, okay, this is what my life is going to be like for at least the next 20 years, I took a challenge that someone gave me. And they said, look, Rob, read a book a week and your Bible every night. And so I set out to read everything that was in the prison library because I didn't want to stay who I was. I didn't want to continue to be the man that I was. I wanted to invest in myself and learn all I could at just being a productive citizen and being a good father, being a good husband should I get another opportunity to marry, and just being an all-around well-rounded person. And of course, as I began to read the Bible, I found out I discovered a relationship with Jesus Christ. And so all of that has tremendously helped me to become who I am today.
Well, there was one book in particular that was a turning point for you. Which book was that?
The Purpose-Driven Life by Rick Warren. Several years ago, I was part of a class where we sat down and started, engaging that book and being in a discussion group with one another. We challenged ourselves not just to read it, but to, like I said, engage with the material. And so we started finding out that, what, we do have a purpose in life. And there's a verse of scripture in the Bible that I'll refer to that is was very helpful for me at that time. It says, God knows the thoughts that he thinks towards us, and those thoughts are thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give us a hope in the future. And so that helped me tremendously to know that even though I was in prison for committing a horrible crime as murder, that there is hope for my future. And so I set out just trying to find out, okay, what can I do to live a purposeful life? I started out by saying how aimlessly I wandered through life. And so as I began discovering that my life has purpose, I found out that, number one, I can help others learn to read and write who have problems doing so. I can help others learn to do things that I may know how to do, but they didn't know how to do because I may have been exposed to it before I came to prison, and they may have grown up in a group home. And so I began to invest in others, and as a result of that, I started finding fulfillment in my own life.
Well, isn't this interesting, Rob, how it's funny how in life we fight the aging process, but, it's only with time and patience and finding love within ourselves that we actually can evolve and have those I get it moments. And what was your biggest I get it moment?
My biggest I get it moment, Nancy? I would have to say that it as I was tutoring a young man, this young man, I don't think he ever went on to get his GED because he had some learning difficulties. But as I spent time tutoring him, to see the look in his eyes that, hey, somebody cares enough to help me, even though it doesn't seem like I'm getting it. He saw someone willing to day after day sit down across the table with him and go through the tedious process of just helping them learn to write the alphabet, just helping them try to get that down pat. And day in and day out, and it seemed like on a weekly basis he didn't remember what he did the week prior. But just going through that, doing that day after day, and him seeing that, hey, I was willing to go the extra mile with him, it just to see that in a person's eyes, to say somebody cares, it makes a tremendous difference, Nancy. It really does.
Absolutely. And we all have that ability to be that person, in prison or not, for somebody else. And I'm just curious, I mean, it's tough because the man you are today, the man you evolved to be through your time in prison, was not that same man that murdered that other gentleman. But, I mean, if you could go back and rewrite that day and never commit that murder, would you?
Of course. Okay. Oh, my God, yes. I would have never did the things that led up to that. If I could go back, I'd have never took that first drink. I'd have never took that first drug. I'd have never chose to rebel and do things that I knew were not right. I'd have never done any of that if I had a chance to go back, because I know now, I see the destructive path that led me on and the ultimate results of that. And so I'm like, if I can warn others, and when I get a chance, I speak to youth and share with them about the choices that I made. And I say, look, young men and women, the choices that you're making right now are determining your destiny. And the choice that you make today is leading you somewhere. And when you get to that place, you may find out that you don't want to be there. So right now, begin to think about the choices that you're making on a day-to-day basis and where that is leading you to. Because when you get there, you may not want to be there. Because I didn't want to be in the Department of Corrections for the time I was there, though it served a good purpose in my life.
You know, sometimes the idea of learning, changing, taking responsibility, it can seem like so much work because it's scary to actually have to be so vulnerable, to actually have to admit and to, you don't know what that change is going to look like. I mean, you know, we all can't be so cocky to say, okay, life is always going to work out. Some people just don't feel like their life is ever going to work out. But what do you say to those people that are at the edge of wanting to give up? Maybe they don't even feel like they're worth it. What do you say to those people?
You know, I would tell them that as long as you have life in your body, there's hope. The sun rises again day after though it sets, it's going to set this evening, it's going to rise again tomorrow. And each new day has new opportunities. Each new day has another opportunity to meet somebody you don't know. And it's amazing how just a relationship formed in a grocery store, in a fast food restaurant, at the gas station, wherever, can be a launching point for a person to move into their destiny, their purpose, and their ultimate calling in life. And so if a person out there is at that place where they say, you know what, I don't want to go on anymore, hear this. God knows the thoughts he thinks towards you, and they are thoughts of peace to give you a hope and a future.
Mm-hmm. And I guess as we kind of close up this interview, Rob, I'm just curious. Obviously, I'm sure your family was hurt by your decisions. I'm sure you've made amends with them. But for somebody for somebody like your family, watching someone be so destructive to themselves, what could somebody do as they're watching someone else spiral?
Well, one thing I would encourage them to do is to never stop reaching out to that person. Even though the person seems like they don't want to hear anything, they don't want to take heed to the warnings or the admonitions or where they're going, continue to do so. You never can tell when it will finally penetrate. The other thing is when they do something really, really bad, don't turn it back on them, because it's at that point when they need you the most. And it is at that point when they are probably the most reprehensible, I guess you would say. When no one wants to deal with them, they are rejected by everyone because they know they've done something horrible. But those two things would be any encouragement and advice I have for family members that are going through that.
Well, I love that. And thank you, Rob, for being a part of our show today. I mean, it's really been an inspirational story from beginning to end, and we wish you all the best every day with your journey and continue to teach others. And everybody, stay with us. We'll be taking your calls when we come back. And thank you again, Rob Whitner. Thank you.
Hey, Dad.
Yeah.
You remember that ball game we went to a couple years ago?
Sure.
And how you didn't have enough cash for 2 hot dogs, so you walked with me on your shoulders until we found an ATM? And then when we got back to our seats, we never saw the hot dog guy again.
Well, I don't remember all that.
Yeah, that was an awesome game.
You never know which moments will be the ones they'll remember forever, so take time to be a dad today. Learn more at 1-877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Medical mistakes claim tens of thousands of lives every year. The healthcare community is working on it, but you can help. When you communicate with your doctor, when you ask more questions, you reduce your risk of suffering a medical mistake. Doctors can't answer if you don't ask. Help reduce your risk. Questions are the answer. Learn the 10 questions you must ask. Visit www.ahrq.gov. This message brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality, and the Ad Council.
I'm getting a catcher's mitt.
I'm getting ice skates. I'm getting a devastating flood.
Adults are generous. We're even giving kids global warming, but we can still reduce greenhouse gas pollution. Go to fightglobalwarming.com. Brought to you by Environmental Defense, the Robertson Foundation, and the Ad Council.
There are many sounds in your daily life. Ones that make you smile. Ones that help you relax. And there are some sounds that can help save lives. Wireless emergency alerts, now on many mobile devices, use a unique sound and vibration to bring you critical information about emergencies in your area. With updates from local sources you know and trust, you can be in the know wherever you are. Learn more at ready.gov/alerts. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
The odds of this Alaskan-born pitcher being selected to the Major League Baseball All-Star Game 6 times? 1 in 48 million. The odds of this fast-balling philanthropist winning the World Series 3 times? 1 in 3 million. The odds of this man having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 110. Hi, I'm Kurt Schilling. Learn the signs of autism at autismspeaks.org. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council. Major League Baseball trademarks used with permission.
It's time to look at aging not as a flaw, not as if we're taking a step back in life, but I want you to look at aging in a positive way. The fact that you are evolving into the best version of yourself you could possibly be. It's about taking those lessons in life, those war wounds of life, everything that help us to shape us to who we are and who we want to be. Never give up on yourself. Never give up on others. It's about aging and doing the I get that moments.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a certified life coach, Nancy can help you to overcome challenges and start living full out. Call in with questions live at 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. And now, here's Nancy.
Okay, here we are, final segment of the show, and as I've mentioned in every segment so far, we are talking about aging. And I think a lot of times when people think of aging, they just think of it like getting older, going from a child to a senior. But aging is one of those processes of life where it's really better not to fight it. I recently was with my 98-year-old grandfather. He'll be 99 in August. And I got to tell you, when I sit down with him and he tells me about World War II, or he tells me about his 2 marriages to 2 great women, my first grandmother passed away and then he remarried. When he talks about his own goals and dreams, even for himself at 98, that's a gentleman, that's a man that has evolved. He's aged gracefully. So age doesn't have to be a negative. Also, there's going to be times like our last guest, Rob Whitner, where we make a really bad decision. That might be murder in his case. That might be having an affair. That might be stealing, cheating, you name it. But rather than staying in that place of disgust for the situation, whatever you did, rather than trying to not admit what happened or try to forget or try to not allow that to impact your world, what you want to focus on is how can I take those life moments, even those negative moments, and make them into a positive. That's the journey of life. That's the whole thing. So when you think about today's show, when you look ahead into the rest of this month, the rest of this year, it isn't about going back in life and necessarily having to say, I forgive, although I do recommend that, because when you do forgive yourself, when you do forgive others, the funny thing is you're set free. And I want that freedom for all, but everybody will get to that place in their own time. But that's what this show is for. It's for us to remember that we have that choice, we have that ability. It's time to hit the reset button in our life. Start over. Whoever you want to be, you can be. You have the ability to choose and take that next step. We're going to go back to the phone lines now. Welcome to the Living Full Out Show.
Hiya. I just had a question I wanted to ask your advice with.
Sure.
I recently got out of a long-term relationship, and I just wanted some advice as what methods you would have to try to just move on from that relationship and just kind of start fresh.
When did you break up?
It was probably about a month ago now.
Okay. And let me and just have a little background, because I think it's helpful to me giving you advice. Was it a mutual breakup, or did you leave that person, or they left you?
He left me, but it was very abrupt and kind of out of nowhere. And so it just kind of was something that, you still are trying to kind of figure out as you go along. But in hindsight, it was a very negative relationship. So I guess I would just say now, looking forward, I'm just trying to see, just some methods of how to just kind of just try to start fresh as best as possible.
Well, and would you say that you're more angry or sad? What emotion hits you the most?
I mean, I would say at first, it's kind of in shock. Now it's just kind of, I would say more on the angry side because I've had some time to reflect on it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, just trying to try to figure out, where I can just kind of regain control and kind of get some power back, because it was, for so long, that was kind of one of the main focuses. Now I'm just trying to refocus myself more.
Do you know what you want to hear the good news?
Yeah.
The good news is you never lost your power.
Yeah.
They never took it from you. It's interesting in a breakup, when people hurt us, when they leave us, when they do anything like that, that raw emotion makes it feel like they got us. But the thing is that person was just not worthy enough for you. In some ways, it's cowardly, and
no, totally.
So it's good that person released you to somebody else.
Yeah.
And why I was asking you the questions about are you angry, are you sad, is because I think a lot of times in life we feel more safe in the surface talk. We feel more safe when we're bubbly and happy all the time. But the only way to heal is to go through those stages of grief. Cry until you've cried your last cry, and you're like, I can't cry for you anymore. I remember there was this guy that had an affair on me one time, and my friend said the best advice. She goes, Nancy, when you think of him, know that he's not in his right mind, because you're amazing. In fact, he's probably relationship ill. So just know that person's just not in their right mind. Okay?
Yeah, no, totally. That's definitely good advice.
And what else? And the other thing that I would do in this time is I would not, when you find yourself in an angry place, if you ever told that person or anybody in your life that you love them, always love the person that you loved. That version of that person that you knew, it's okay to have loved that person. But it's also okay to say, that person is not my long-term Romeo, right? So I think a lot of times when we're in anger, we feel like, again, they won. So when you can say, nope, you cannot take love away from me. I loved you. I will still love other people. That's how you get your control back. And when you go on and you're dating other people, I mean, I wouldn't go overly into your relationship of why you broke up with the past person, but some people think that you should never bring up past people. I don't think that's the case. I think that you have to identify what was not working in this relationship so the next one can flourish. Does that make sense?
Right, so you can learn from it better.
Exactly, and part of that is obviously all the things that they didn't do right, but also if we really look at ourselves, sometimes there's places where we contributed. Not a lot, but you have to look at how you contributed, and then in the next relationship, what do you want to do differently? If people constantly have arguments about one person being on their cell phone all the time, then in the next relationship, they might want to take that to heart and not be on their cell phone all the time. Or if or if the communication skills are constantly butting heads, it might be that the communication style of the other partner wasn't good, and you just have to wasn't the right match. You just have to find a partner that has a communication style that blends with you more. So it's really just a discovery. Now, I know that's not going to help. That's not going to help with the pain, but I want you to always remember something, okay? There is only one you. Only one you. And so every guy that gets to date you over the course of your life until you find that one, or I even believe that there's several ones, really, because some people pass away. Yeah. You can find the one again. But just know that everybody who meets you is lucky to have dated you. But it's part of your life journey to find that person to run with. Okay?
Right.
So
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so the good thing is, woohoo, party. Because now you're set free to find that one. Oh my gosh, that guy could have soaked up another year of your life, and then he still would have left you.
No, definitely.
So I want you to celebrate tonight, the fact that you're free. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you for leaving me, because now I'm free. Okay?
Right. Thank you. No,
Okay.
definitely. That's good advice.
Good. Well, I'll be thinking of you because I know it's hard. It is a hard process, but the great thing is you're talking about it, and that's all you can ask for. That's all you can do of yourself.
Right.
Okay? Thank you for calling in. Thank
All right.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. I love that she called in about that because, well, she's very happy at this moment. And, you know, we've all been there. We've all had heartbreak. And sometimes that's in the form of somebody in a romantic relationship hurting us, or maybe even a business partnership. It just sucks to feel that moment of being taken advantage of or feeling alone. But the great thing is, just always remember how many people are in this beautiful world. There's tons of people. And just like Rob Whitner, just like our last caller and the callers before, everybody's looking to grow and learn. So the thing is who we date today, they may not be the right match for us tomorrow. And so you just got to let life unfold. You got to let the purpose for your life guide you. Today, obviously, we've been talking about aging, and I hope that over the course of our show today, you've looked at aging a little differently. I want you to embrace those wrinkles, embrace those gray hairs, embrace those few extra pounds, because those are demonstrating that, you know what, you're not that green, young person that doesn't know what life's about. When you mature and you grow and life takes its form both physically, emotionally, and inside our core, that's growing, that's evolving, and that's where you want to be. So, cheers to all the gray hairs in the world. Anyway, I want to thank everybody who is a part of our show today, Mindy and Rich and everybody who contributed to the show, our callers, our guests. If you would like to write in about the show, go to connect@livingfullout.com. You can also hear the replay of today's show at livingfullout.com/radio show. And thank you again. I'm wishing all of you a great day, and here's to you living your life full out.